Everyone in Mbara City knew his name, Eli Uzoma, the richest man around. His mansion stood tall on a hill, glass walls shining like diamonds under the sun. People called him the Golden Sun. He drove gold-plated cars, owned 5 companies, and flew private jets to countries most people only saw on TV. But no one ever saw his mother. His staff never spoke her name. His neighbors had never met her. And when reporters once asked about her during a charity event, Eli's smile froze. He changed the topic quickly and walked off the stage. But far away in a small broken hut outside the city, Mama Uzoma boiled cassava on a fire built with sticks. Her hands were wrinkled and her feet were cracked from walking to the market every day. She didn't own a phone. She didn't have power. But she had a photo, an old, faded picture of a smiling young boy in a school uniform. Her boy. She stared at that photo every night. Not a call. Not a visit. Not even a letter in 10 years. In the city, Eli was planning a celebration, his 35th birthday. He had invited governors, celebrities, and billionaires from across Africa. But in the village, Mama Uzoma picked dry leaves off the roof before the rain came. That night, as thunder rolled across the sky, she whispered, "No matter how rich he gets, the sky still cries." And far away, Eli couldn't sleep. The grand ballroom sparkled like a dream. Chandeliers hung like stars, violins played softly, and waiters in black coats moved like shadows. Eli Uzoma stood in the center, dressed in a custom white suit with gold buttons. Cameras flashed. Everyone clapped. But Eli kept glancing at the long table near the front, at one empty chair. His personal assistant, Nene, leaned in. "Is something wrong, sir?" Eli didn't answer. That seat wasn't for a governor or a business partner. It was for someone else. Someone who taught him how to read by candlelight. Who sold vegetables to pay his school fees. Someone who gave up food so he could eat. His mother. He had sent her nothing. No invite. No car. No word. Not since the day he walked away and said, "I'll come back for you." He never did. That night, after the party, Eli sat alone in his giant living room. The laughter was gone. The music had stopped. He stared at the untouched cake shaped like a mansion. In the quiet, he remembered her voice. "Eli, never forget the ground that raised you." He pulled out his phone. His finger hovered over the call button, but paused. He didn't even know if she still used the same number. Back in the village, Mama Uzoma sat on a wooden stool under a tree. She stared at the road as if waiting. The wind blew gently, carrying the smell of rain, and something else. Oh. Mama Uzoma opened her metal trunk, the one she kept hidden under her bed. Inside were folded wrappers, a torn Bible, and a bundle of letters, none of them recent. She picked up the last envelope Eli had sent. It was from years ago when he first got a scholarship abroad. She had danced that day, singing in the rain. The whole village had come to celebrate her son. But since then, silence. She pulled out a piece of paper and began to write. The pen shook in her hands. "My son, I don't need your money. I just want to know if you still remember the sound of my voice. If you still carry my prayers in your heart." She folded the letter and stared at it. But she didn't post it. Where would she send it? The mansion? The company? Would he even open it? Meanwhile, in the city, Eli stood before a giant mirror. His tailor was measuring him for an award ceremony. "You'll look like royalty," the tailor said. But Eli didn't smile. He had received an anonymous package that morning, an old photo of him and his mother standing outside their clay house. It had no note, just the picture. He knew who sent it. He stared at it for a long time before slipping it into his jacket pocket. That evening he told his driver, "Take me to Obinze village. Now." The driver blinked. "Sir, that's hours away." "I know." And he didn't take a single bodyguard. The black SUV left the highway and bounced onto a narrow, dusty road. Trees lined the path like old guards watching his return. Eli leaned against the window, silent. The village air smelled of firewood, red earth, and something distant, like memory. Children ran barefoot along the roadside, chasing the car and waving. One pointed and shouted, "That's a big man's car." Another added, "Maybe it's the governor." But Eli didn't feel like a big man. As they entered Obinze, the village looked smaller than he remembered. The houses leaned with age, goats walked freely, and laughter came from under mango trees. He told the driver to stop near the church. "I'll walk from here." "Alone, sir?" "Yes." Eli stepped out. His polished shoes were too shiny for the dust. Villagers stared but said nothing. Some whispered. A woman selling yams squinted. "Is that?" He ignored them all and walked the path he knew well. past the broken well, past the market shed where his mother once sold groundnuts. His feet slowed as he reached a tiny hut with a bent zinc roof and clothes hanging outside. He stood still. There she was. Mama Uzoma sitting on her stool peeling cassava. Her hair had turned white. Her back was bent. Her hands, once strong, trembled slightly. She looked up. Their eyes met. 10 years of silence hung between them like a heavy rope. Then, without a word, she turned her face away. Eli's chest tightened. Coming home wasn't enough. Forgiveness had a price. Eli stood by the doorway, unsure if he should move closer. The peeling cassava in Mama Uzoma's hands dropped, but she didn't reach for it. Her back remained turned, her silence louder than any scream. "Mama," Eli said quietly. She didn't look at him. His voice cracked. "I came to see you." Still nothing. He took a step forward, the dust rising around his shoes. "I've built companies, homes, but none of them feel like this." Now she spoke. Her voice was calm but cold. "Then why did you leave this place like a plague? Why did I have to hear about my son from strangers? From newspapers?" Eli swallowed hard. "I wanted to come back. I thought I'd fix everything first. I thought success would make you proud." Mama Uzoma turned slowly, her eyes filled with a pain deeper than tears. "You thought money could raise the dead? You missed your father's burial. You missed my sickness. You missed everything." The words cut through Eli's heart like a knife. His mouth opened but no words came. She stood, leaning on her walking stick. "You have everything, Eli. But you left behind the one thing that mattered." He nodded slowly, eyes stinging. "I was wrong." She walked past him into the house. "You may sleep in the small room. The roof leaks but the floor is still dry. No hug. No smile. No forgiveness, yet. Just a place to lay his head and remember where he came from." The small room smelled of dust and old wood. A single mat lay on the floor beside a cracked window. Eli sat on it, his back against the wall. Rain dripped through a hole in the roof, tapping into a rusty bucket someone had placed years ago. He had once dreamed under this same roof, of cities, of riches, of escape. Now he was back, soaked in regret. That night he couldn't sleep. The mosquito net was torn. The air was hot and thick. And every sound, the frogs outside, the squeak of the door, the drip drip drip, reminded him how far he'd gone. And how far he'd fallen. In the morning he stepped out to find Mama already sweeping the compound. She didn't look up. He reached for the broom. "Let me help." She didn't resist but didn't thank him either. A neighbor passed by, staring. "Mama Uzoma, is that really your son?" Mama nodded but said nothing. Later Eli offered to buy her a new house. Something better. With electricity. Water. Comfort. She looked him straight in the eyes. "Comfort without connection is a prison." He blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means your house won't heal what your heart broke." Eli stood there, words failing him again. That afternoon he took the broom, the knife, the firewood, and helped without being told. Not to be seen, but to try. He didn't know how to earn forgiveness, but he was ready to stay long enough to learn. Word spread quickly. Eli Uzoma, the billionaire, was living in a leaking hut with his mother. Villagers peeked through bushes, some out of curiosity, others in disbelief. Children whispered. Elders shook their heads. "Maybe he's broke," one man said. "Or sick," said another. But Eli ignored them all. Every morning he fetched water from the stream barefoot. The stones bruised his soft city feet, but he didn't complain. He followed Mama Uzoma to the market, carrying baskets on his head. She said little but her silence had softened, no longer sharp, just tired. At the market an old woman called out, "So the prodigal son returns." Eli smiled weakly. "I'm trying to make things right." The woman stared. "Then don't use your wallet. Use your hands." So he helped her stack her plantains. Mama watched from afar. One night as they sat under the mango tree, Eli finally asked, "What do I need to do, Mama?" She looked at him. "Forgiveness is not something you buy. It's something you live." "I don't know how." "Then start by staying. Not as a visitor but as a son." He nodded slowly. In the city his companies kept calling. Meetings were missed. Shareholders panicked. But Eli stayed. He dug holes. He planted maize. He repaired the leaking roof. And slowly the villagers stopped staring. They started greeting. "Not sir. Just Eli." He wasn't the richest man here anymore. But for the first time in years he felt something stronger than wealth. Belonging. It rained heavily that morning. The roof, now patched with fresh zinc Eli had helped install, held strong. But one of Mama Uzoma's goats had escaped into the muddy field. Eli ran after it, slipping and stumbling but determined. When he returned with the goat in his arms, soaked and shivering, Mama finally smiled, but only for a second. "You've never touched a goat in your life," she said. He laughed. "Still better than shaking hands with fake men in suits." She didn't reply, but she handed him a dry towel. It was the first small sign that something in her heart was changing. Later that evening she sat on the porch, weaving palm fronds into a broom. Eli sat beside her. Silence settled between them like the sunset. "Do you remember Papa's last words?" she asked suddenly. Eli looked down. He said, "Don't let wealth steal your roots." "And you?" "I let it steal everything." She nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's time you plant new ones." The words sank deep. That night Eli lay on his mat and stared at the ceiling. For the first time he didn't feel like a guest. He listened to the frogs croak, the wind rustle the leaves, and his mother humming softly in the next room. No sirens. No city lights. Just peace. He whispered into the dark, "I'm not going back, not until she calls me son again." And outside the moon shone quietly, like it too believed he meant it. The next morning Eli rose before the sun. Mama Uzoma was already outside, tying firewood with rope. Her fingers moved fast, steady, like they'd done it 1,000 times. Eli joined her without a word. "Use 2 knots, not 3, she said. He smiled. "You're still the boss." Mama didn't respond, but she handed him another rope. They walked side by side to the market, carrying bundles of wood. Sweat ran down Eli's back. His shoulders ached. But he didn't complain. At the stall, Mama Uzoma arranged the wood while Eli sat behind her, watching. Suddenly, a woman from another stall began to sing an old folk song. Mama Uzoma joined in without thinking, her voice strong and clear. Eli looked up, surprised. "I haven't heard you sing in years," he said. "I had no reason to." He lowered his gaze. "I'm trying to give you one now." She looked at him, her face softer than before. "Then keep trying." On the way home they passed children playing in the dirt. One child asked, "Mama Uzoma, who is that man with you?" She replied without thinking, "That's my." She paused. Eli stopped too, holding his breath. "That's Eli," she finished, turning away. He didn't correct her. He didn't need to. That night, he sat under the mango tree again, this time singing the folk song to himself, off-key but smiling. Each small crack in her wall felt like sunlight breaking through. Forgiveness wasn't fast. But something was beginning to grow. Eli was repairing the broken fence when a sleek black car pulled up near the compound. The dust hadn't even settled before a man in a tight suit stepped out, looking confused and annoyed. "Sir, what are you doing here?" It was Jude, Eli's business partner from the city. Eli wiped sweat from his forehead. "Fixing the fence." Jude looked around, disgusted. "You've gone completely mad. Investors are threatening to pull out. The press is asking questions. This is bad for your image." Eli straightened. "Maybe the problem is the image, not the man." Mama Uzoma watched from the porch, arms folded. Jude lowered his voice. "Look, whatever you're doing here, wrap it up. You're the face of a billion-dollar empire, not this." Eli looked at his hands, dusty, blistered, real. He turned to Jude. "Tell the board I'm not coming back." "Not yet." Jude stared. "You're throwing everything away?" "No," Eli said. "I'm starting over." Jude scoffed, shook his head and walked away. The car kicked up dust as it sped off. Mama Uzoma didn't speak until the air settled. "You stood your ground," she said quietly. "I used to chase gold, Mama," he said, looking at her. "Now I just want peace." She looked into his eyes, searching for something. And for the first time she didn't look away. That night Eli cooked dinner. It wasn't perfect, but she ate every bite. And when he washed the dishes she whispered, "Good boy." 2 words. But they lit his heart on fire. While sweeping the back of the hut, Eli stumbled upon a wooden box covered in dust. Inside it were bits of his childhood, handmade toys, old notebooks, and a small leather-bound diary with faded corners. He opened it gently. Page after page, written in careful handwriting, were notes from Mama Uzoma. Prayers, thoughts, and daily struggles. Some pages had tear marks. Others had dried flower petals pressed between them. Eli came home from school crying today. He said he was tired of being the poor boy. "Sold my last wrapper to buy his books. May God lift him one day. I miss his laughter. I hope he doesn't forget me." Eli sat down, his chest heavy. Each word was a wound. He read every page until the sun began to set. That evening as they sat under the tree, he handed her the diary. "I found this," he said. Mama Uzoma looked at it for a long time. "I wrote it so I wouldn't go mad." "I never knew," he whispered. "You never asked." Silence. "I'm sorry, Mama." She nodded slowly. "Sorry is not a broom, it doesn't sweep away pain. But it opens the door." He lowered his head. "Can I walk through it?" She reached out and gently touched his hand. One step at a time. A firefly danced between them in the dusk. It wasn't a full hug. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was the first time in years she reached out first. The village potter, a bent old man named Baba Timo, had known Eli since he was a boy. One morning he called out as Eli passed by with a basket of yams. "Big man, come help an old soul." Eli smiled and followed him into a clay hut filled with pots in every shape. Baba handed him a lump of red clay. "Sit. Mold something for your mother." Eli laughed. "I've never made anything with my hands." Baba grinned. "That's the problem with rich men, they forgot creation starts with dirt." Eli rolled the clay, shaping it awkwardly. His fingers slipped and the pot wobbled. Baba chuckled but didn't correct him. "Let it speak your heart, not your skill." By sunset, Eli returned home with the crooked clay pot. Mama Uzoma was peeling vegetables on the porch. "I made something," he said, placing the pot beside her. She looked at it, uneven, cracked, imperfect. "I know it's not much." She interrupted. "It's more than much. It's real." He sat beside her, nervous. "I never gave you anything made with my hands. Only money." She ran her fingers along the clay. "Money can't remember how I used to sing you to sleep." Pause. "I remember," he whispered. "Every song." She looked at him. "Then sing one." So he did, softly, shyly, like a child again. And for the first time in 10 years Mama Uzoma laughed. Not a small chuckle. A deep, full laugh that shook the silence. One morning the village chief sent a boy with a message. "Eli Uzoma is invited to the elders' square at midday." Eli frowned. "What for?" Mama Uzoma wiped her hands on her wrapper. "They want to see if you remember how to greet your roots." At noon Eli wore a plain white shirt and followed the boy. The square was filled with elders seated under the big tree, their walking sticks resting beside them. Chief Dyke cleared his throat. "We heard the city's golden sun is back. But we see a barefoot man who fetches water." The crowd chuckled. Eli bowed low. "I have returned, not with pride but with lessons." One elder squinted. "Did you leave your name behind, or are you still Uzoma's boy?" "I'm still her boy," Eli said. "And I am still yours, if you'll have me." Chief Dyke leaned back. "We do not care how high you fly. We care if you remember where you took off." He handed Eli a carved stool. "Sit with us, not as a guest but as one of us." Mama Uzoma stood quietly at the back. She saw her son sit humbly among the elders, sweat on his brow, dust on his feet. She pressed her palm to her chest. Later that evening she handed Eli a wrapped package. He opened it. Inside was the pair of sandals he used to wear as a boy. "You walked far," she said, "but I kept these for the day you returned walking." And this time she smiled fully. Behind Mama Uzoma's hut stood an old irako tree. When Eli was a boy, he carved his initials into it with a nail and promised he'd return rich. Now years later he stood under the same tree, older, humbled, and quiet. Mama joined him with 2 wooden stools. They sat together, watching the sun dip behind the hills. "Papa planted this tree when you were born," she said softly. Eli ran his fingers along the carved bark. "I remember. I thought it would grow faster." She chuckled. "Some trees grow slow but strong. Like healing." There was a pause. "Mama," he whispered. "Can I ask something?" She looked at him. "Can you forgive me?" She breathed in deep, then looked at the tree. "You came home. You stayed. You listened. That's more than an apology, it's a change." He blinked. "So, is that a yes?" She smiled. "I forgave you the moment you picked up the broom." Eli swallowed hard. His chest burned with relief, with love, with something too big for words. She reached out and touched his shoulder. "You're not just my son. You're my beginning. My seed." He held her hand, gently, like it was the most precious thing in the world. That night, he sat under the tree alone, carving one more thing beside his old initials. It said, "Forgiven." 10 years late, right on time. The wind rustled the leaves like they were clapping. And for the first time in a long time, Eli slept peacefully. Market day was busy. Eli helped Mama Uzoma arrange tomatoes on her mat when he saw her, Amaka, the schoolteacher. She wore a yellow dress and carried a bag full of books. Her smile was calm, her eyes steady. She walked by and nodded. "Good morning, Mama Uzoma." "Good morning, stranger." Eli stood up, brushing dirt off his trousers. "Not a stranger. Just a returning son." Amaka raised an eyebrow. "A son with soft hands and big eyes, maybe?" Mama Uzoma chuckled. "This one needs more teasing. Don't go easy on him." Amaka laughed, then walked away, her laughter lingering in the air like perfume. Eli watched her go. That evening, as he carried water back from the stream, he found Amaka sitting under the irako tree, reading to a group of children. He waited until the story ended. "You tell stories well," he said. She smiled. "That's because I live among people who've forgotten how to listen." He nodded. "I'm trying to remember." They talked for hours, about the village, the stars, books, and silence. She asked him what made him come back. He pointed toward the hut. "A mother's silence. And my own emptiness." Amaka studied him. "You're not empty. Just starting over." As night fell, fireflies danced between them. Eli walked her home, careful with each step, like her presence was sacred. That night Mama Uzoma teased, "Be careful. The heart is harder to rebuild than a roof." Eli smiled. But something inside him had already begun to stir. A week passed. Eli and Amaka grew close, sharing meals, stories, and long walks through the village. She spoke with wisdom that soothed him. She didn't care about his money, only his truth. One morning, as they watered the garden behind Mama Uzoma's hut, Amaka pointed to a patch of dry soil. "You see that?" Eli nodded. She handed him a small pouch of seeds. "Plant these. Water them every day. No excuses." Eli tilted his head. "Why?" "You'll understand when they grow, or don't." She smiled and walked off, leaving him with questions and seeds. That afternoon, Mama Uzoma sat on the porch shelling groundnuts. "She's good for you," she said. Eli grinned. "You like her?" "I like anyone who makes you work with your hands and think with your heart." He nodded, then hesitated. "Mama, there's something else." She looked up. "In the city? I signed a contract to build a hotel here. Right on this land." Her face changed. "Before you came back?" He nodded. "I forgot what this place meant. I was blind." Her voice was sharp. "Then unblind yourself. Cancel it." "I did. Yesterday." She stared at him, eyes searching. "You did." "I told them to leave Obinze out of the blueprint." Mama Uzoma exhaled, a deep breath she'd held for years. "You finally chose us." Eli sat beside her, the seed pouch still in his pocket. He had no idea what would grow from the earth. But something had already begun to bloom in his soul. The village children gathered under the tree again. This time it wasn't just for Amaka's stories, it was for a new school project. Eli had donated books, chalk, and desks, but made sure not to stamp his name on anything. "This is for the village," he said, "not for show." Amaka smiled as she helped hang a cloth sign above the doorway of the new classroom. Uzoma Learning Room. Mama Uzoma walked slowly to the front. She squinted at the name. "You named it after me?" Eli shook his head. "I named it after us." Her eyes glistened. Later that evening, Amaka and Eli walked toward the stream. The wind was soft and birds chirped in the trees. "You've changed," she said. "I'm still learning," Eli replied. She stopped walking. "And your life in the city?" He paused. "I'll return. But not to live. To visit. To fix what I broke. But this," he looked around, "this is home." She looked at him, then away. "And me?" He reached for her hand. "I don't want to leave you out of anything." Silence. Then Amaka whispered, "Let's grow something together. Not just crops." That night Eli sat with Mama Uzoma on the porch. He leaned his head on her shoulder like he used to as a boy. She whispered, "You've brought back more than yourself, Eli. You brought back our name." And for the first time Eli believed it. Not as a title, but as a legacy. Weeks later the city came calling, louder this time. The board of directors had sent a formal letter. Eli was still CEO. They wanted answers. Eli showed it to Mama Uzoma after dinner. The stars sparkled above them. "I need to go back," he said gently. "To close old chapters." She nodded. "Go with a steady heart. But remember, speed can't fix what only time can teach." He turned to Amaka. "Will you come with me?" She looked at Mama first. "With your blessing." Mama Uzoma smiled. "Your family now." 2 days later they arrived in the city. The mansion still stood tall, but it no longer felt like home. Eli walked through each room, touching the cold marble, the empty halls. The boardroom was filled with tension. "We need your leadership," one man said. "But you've changed, and not in a good way." Eli stood, calm and firm. "I've changed in the best way. I've remembered what matters." He handed over a plan, not to grow but to give. Scholarships. Community centers. Rural outreach. Some argued. Some clapped. Eli didn't stay for their vote. He had learned something greater than power. Later that evening he stood at a press conference. "I once thought wealth was about owning things. But true wealth is knowing where you belong, and who you are when no one's watching." The city cheered. But Eli looked past the cameras. Toward Amaka. Toward the road home. And toward a future that wasn't built with money, but meaning. Back in Obinze, the villagers gathered under the old mango tree. It was a special day, Mama Uzoma's 70th birthday. Colorful wrappers danced in the wind, drums echoed from the hills, and the scent of jollof rice filled the air. Eli stood beside Amaka, both dressed in traditional attire. He wasn't the man who left this village years ago. That man chased the world. This one had returned to build it, starting with home. He stepped onto a small wooden stage and called for quiet. "I once thought success was measured by applause and numbers. But I learned true success is hearing your mother's voice call you son again." The crowd clapped. Mama Uzoma covered her mouth, holding back tears. Eli continued, "To honor her and every mother like her, we're launching the Uzoma Foundation. Its first school will open next month, in this village." Children cheered. Elders nodded. Then he turned to Amaka. "I also learned that building a future means not doing it alone." He pulled out a small box. The crowd gasped. He knelt. "Amaka, will you marry me?" She blinked, stunned, then smiled. "Only if you promise to water the garden yourself." Laughter broke out. She said yes. Mama Uzoma walked up, placed both hands on their heads, and whispered a prayer of blessing. And for a moment, everything was still, like even the wind paused to listen. Eli had given up the world. But he had gained something no riches could ever buy. A forgiven past and a future rooted in love. Months passed. The garden behind Mama Uzoma's hut had flourished. Maize stood tall, tomatoes ripened under the sun, and near the fence, the flowers Amaka planted bloomed in soft orange and yellow. And right in the center, the seeds Eli once planted, those same ones Amaka gave him, had grown into a proud tree sapling. Every morning Eli watered it himself. Mama Uzoma often watched from the porch, a quiet smile on her lips. One cool morning she sat beside him on the stool, wrapped in a warm shawl. She looked at the tree, then at her son. "You did well, Eli." He smiled. "I didn't do it alone." She nodded. "No one builds a home with one hand." They sat in silence for a moment, letting the birds sing their morning songs. Then Mama Uzoma reached into her wrapper and handed him something, her diary. "I don't need to write in it anymore," she said softly. "You've become the answer to every page." Eli pressed it to his chest. That afternoon, village children ran through the garden paths of the new Uzoma learning room, laughing and learning. Amaka, now his wife, taught with joy in her voice and purpose in her steps. And under the mango tree, Eli carved a new line into the bark. "Rich in money, poor in spirit. Forgiven, now full." The city still knew him as the richest man. But in Obinze he was just a son who came home. And that was worth more than anything. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please take a moment to like the video, drop a comment, share it with someone, and most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more powerful stories like this. Your support means everything. Thank you for watching this video.